Joining us now is Ojy Okpe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinx.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell you all the stories that are trending across the globe. Of course, I always do that to you. How are you this morning?
Morning, I'm
Great.
fine.
Good morning, Tundu
Good
Abiola.
morning, Ojy.
How are you this morning?
I'm great. How are you?
Excited, as usual, as always. Well, all right. Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe.
In the United Kingdom, solar technology firm Trailer is considering suing former U.S. President Donald Trump's newly launched $1 billion social media app, Truth Social, over its nearly identical logo. The firm claims no affiliation with the app, which was launched on Apple's App Store on February 21st. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin on Monday recognized the independence of separatist regions in eastern Ukraine and paved the way to provide them military support. Putin justified his decision in a pre-recorded speech, blaming NATO for the current crisis and called the US-led alliance an existential threat to Russia. In Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday made a passionate plea to nations, institutions and bodies, both private and public, to return the country's artifacts in their possession, following the recent return of 2 Benin bronzes pillaged by British forces 125 years ago. In December 2021, the German government entered an agreement with Nigeria to return 1,130 Benin bronzes in its possession. Under sports, Milwaukee Bucks power forward Giannis Antetokounmpo has made history by becoming the first ever global ambassador for the social media platform WhatsApp. The 27-year-old Greek Nigerian said the app serves as a link to his home in Greece and a link to his family roots in Nigeria. He was spotted on Sunday at the 2022 NBA All-Star Game wearing a Nigerian fabric hoodie with the inscription of the country's international calling code. And Manchester United forward Cristiano Ronaldo has become the first person to reach 400 million followers on Instagram. The Portuguese superstar on Monday took to the social blogging platform to thank his fans for helping him to achieve the feat.
Thank you very much, and let's do it more 100, 200 millions. Thank you guys.
Finally, under entertainment, Chukwuka Ekwane, popularly known as CKay, whose global hit song Love Nwantiti made him the best-selling African artist globally, is reported to have accumulated over 2.6 billion naira in streaming royalties. The song, which was first released in 2019, became a TikTok sensation in 2021 and was recently certified gold in the United Kingdom.
Congratulations to CKay. Let's begin what's trending with reactions trailing the embattled Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, who on Monday sued the federal government and denied the drug trafficking allegations levied against him. Kyari, in the lawsuit, accused the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency of assisting drug traffickers and alleged that a corrupt NDLEA officer framed him. Kyari insisted that there was no proof to support the allegation upon which he was arrested and detained. He is demanding a media apology and the sum of 500 million naira as compensation for unlawful violation of his constitutional rights. Let's take a reaction from Muneku, who wrote, "Whoever thought that a day will come when Abba Kyari will be the one suing the federal government for unlawful violation of his constitutional right." I mean, when I read his filing, I was shocked. It just seems like a movie, this whole saga with Abba Kyari. Well, apparently the judge has denied hearing his application without hearing from the federal government first on Monday. But, you know, he's also denied medical attention as well. I mean, I think that he's complaining about some heart problems, and he's been, you know, he's in this lawsuit as well, asking that he be granted bail so that he can go and get some medical attention. It just seems like a movie. The fact that he's also accusing NDLEA officers at this point of colluding with drug traffickers is just like, what do you call it? a whistle at this point, right?
What, the dog whistle?
A dog whistle, not a dog whistle.
No, for me, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, this is quite typical. His lawyers will throw everything at this and they will see what sticks. And it's really the court that will decide what sticks. And this is exactly why, I hate to say it because I'm a lawyer, this is exactly why a lot of members of the public cannot stand lawyers. They completely despise lawyers because they stand up in court with all kinds of things and say all kinds of things that everybody else derides. But the fact of the matter is, Abba Kyari, whatever he has been accused of, is a Nigerian. He's guaranteed by the Constitution his right to a fair hearing. He has a right to be represented in court.
Yeah.
Now, whatever colorful, creative ways that his legal counsel chooses to enforce that right is really up to them. But for me, this is following a really predictable playbook. All the sudden health issues that he has, how he only eats in his own home. He has a restricted diet, I imagine. And, you know, all the, you know, other examples that I could give, there are too many, actually. It's typical.
Yeah.
Especially with a high-profile case, of course. And then the infringement of his human rights, that too is typical. Suing, trying to extract money from the federal government for your situation, that too is typical. So really, for me, I don't want to be distracted by all the smoke and mirrors and all these shenanigans, just to focus on what the court will decide, because that is the ultimate arbiter, not the rest of us. But he will defend himself.
Absolutely. I mean, and, you know, blame everyone, including IPOB.
Yes.
Dr. Abati.
Well, two issues here. One, DCB Abba Kyari is saying that he was framed up on trumped-up charges by the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency. And his counsel, appearing before the court of Justice Ojy Okpe, provided a narrative of how he had to intervene in the matter and how it's actually NDLA officials that were guilty of colluding with a drug, courier. And that the informant who had blown the whistle, that there had been a prior agreement that the informant would be paid a certain amount over that 24 kg cocaine, package that has caused this problem. And then he intervened, and he ended up, according to him, getting framed up. Whereas it was the NDLA officials themselves who had been routinely providing safe passage for drug couriers.
Yes.
Now, that's a very serious allegation.
Very serious.
And I hope that the authorities will also investigate that. But the question that anybody will ask is that, as at the time this particular NDLEA incident occurred, he was supposed to be on suspension. If a man is on suspension, do you still go and call him from home to come and lead an intelligence response team, working in the office of the Inspector General of Police? So that's one thing that stood out. The second thing, of course, is that he's seeking the enforcement of his fundamental human rights. He's alleging that he was tortured, he's been treated very badly in NDLEA custody. And his lawyer is, presenting before the court sections 35 and 36 of the Constitution. Under Section 36, we deals broadly with the right to fair hearing. A man is not supposed to be treated badly because you are considered innocent until proven guilty. So if indeed he's been subjected to torture and degrading treatment, then of course his lawyer can say, look, we want to enforce his rights. Now, he also wants to be granted leave to go and attend to his health. He says he has diabetes, he's also hypertensive, and he has not had access to his medication. Now, as an accused person, you can go to court. And for all of this suffering, he's saying that the court should rule that the federal government of Nigeria should pay him 500 million as cost for the damages that have been done to him. Now, so all of this is just about the NDLA case. There has been nothing about the other case, the FBI case, the indictment also by a magistrate court in the United States. So I agree with you when you say there's a lot of drama that we may not yet see the end of it. But another thing that starts out here is that it was an ex parte application.
Yes.
And oftentimes we've talked about, judges abusing ex parte applications. Ex parte applications are supposed to be, applied in in an extraordinary situation where there is an emergency issue to be dealt with immediately. His lordship didn't consider this such an emergency.
Yeah.
And so he has followed the principle, the classical principle in law, audi alteram partem. Thou must hear the other side, which is a principle that is often set aside in ex parte applications. And he has fixed a date, I think next week, for the federal government to come and respond to these allegations.
Yes.
So, the drama has
definitely
started. But what we can talk about is that, yes, every accused person is entitled to fair hearing.
You're right.
And decent treatment. But the law, again, must take its course.
Yeah.
And it's only the course that can determine, what it wants according to the prayers that you bring before the court.
Yes.
I think it's part of the playbook for his counsel to bring an ex parte application. It's supposed to be for serious emergencies,
Which is
where
what he's talking
irreparable
about, his
damage.
health.
Yes.
His
So I think
health.
that's why they did that.
Correct. We'll take another story. The federal government has again expressed its commitment in ensuring the responsible use of social media. On Monday, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, during a media briefing, raised the alarm on the rising rate of ritual killings in the country, some of which have been attributed to the use of social media. Lai Mohammed cited some examples of ritualists who claim to have learned money-making tricks from various social media platforms. The minister further stated that the federal government has no intention to stifle the media or constrict the social media space, but will not relent in their campaign to rid social media of unwholesome content. I'm not quite sure how that will work. I mean, without, clamping down on the social media space. But I think he raised a very, very important situation, which is the rising rate of ritual killings in Nigeria. It is so absurd. I believe last week, President Buhari also mentioned that, and he talked about the fact that it's becoming so rampant in Nigeria. I just don't know how this will happen, how they'll curb the social media space without, trampling on our rights.
Well, he didn't get into the details,
Yes.
but he's 100% correct to
Yes.
raise the issue. It is extremely worrying. My mind went to the social media giants and their own in-house content moderators that they employ. And those of us who complain, for me personally, I don't use social media because I find it quite sickening. But there are people working really hard around the clock, and I don't know how they do it, to rid social media of a lot of really depraved posts of rape, torture. It would be even worse if they did not have social media content moderators. So I would say, as a means of going about it, that those social media giants should invest in even more of those people who's in different countries and different localities, such that there was a case of a ritual killing that was inspired by a Facebook post that was never flagged. It was able to fly under the radar because it was in a native Nigerian language, apparently. And maybe those people only are English speakers or French speakers or what have you. They need to employ more Nigerians. If we're talking about in the Nigerian
space.
Yes, so they should employ people speaking Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Fulani, what other language? Every language. They have the money, they have the budget to do it because they have profited massively from the worst in human nature.
Yes.
Because I'm even thinking of even the more benign aspects of social media, like hate speech, have resulted in people getting killed. Lives have been lost because of posts.
Across the world,
you inflame passions and you get people killed. So they really need to do a lot more. So the policing needs to come from them. I don't think that individuals can do much more beyond reporting posts that you come across on social media and them acting on it quickly. I think they just need to employ a lot more people because it has to stop. And it is social media. But when you look at things like what people post on social media that does glorify wealth without labor, people complain a lot about that the way people are just so ostentatious on social media, that cannot be controlled by social media moderators. You cannot say, I find it really distasteful personally if somebody empties the contents of their closet, for example, and posts a bunch of, I don't know what.
Empty.
Yeah, and post like a bunch of.
They're flashing it.
Yeah, I don't know whatever they're doing. I post all of that. If I find it personally distasteful, doesn't mean the next person will, does not mean make it a criminal issue. So that, I think, can only be addressed when we change, when we have a shift in what we glorify as a culture, in what we like, when we rush to like things and we praise those things. We all need to look upon those things with a little more circumspection and wonder, how did this person acquire all these things? So that will also help on that level.
That's a good point. Dr.
Okay.
Bati?
There's no doubt that the social media can be used for evil.
Yes.
It's been described as a very positive force that people use to interact, to do business, to connect, to reduce distances and all of that, and to communicate, express themselves, even for commerce. But on the flip side of it, it also has its negative side. And it's not only Nigeria that is concerned about that. And it's not always about dictatorship. You remember the Christchurch Mosque killings in 2019 in New Zealand. And, the killing was put on social media.
Live stream.
Yes, and
Terrible.
that became a big problem. And after that particular incident in which people lost their lives, Jacinta Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, linked up with other leaders of the world. And the main issue was about how to make the social media more responsible. Now, the approach that was adopted and was, the responsibility of the big tech companies. And then at that point, there was expansion of community rules. There were talks about sanctioning those big tech companies that allow their, platforms to be used to promote negativity, murder, killings, rape, pedophilia, human trafficking, all of those, are negative things on their platform. And that's why you've seen Twitter, Google being very vigilant in that respect. In some other countries, the extreme side of it, social media is restricted. Access to it is restricted. Sometimes it's completely shut down. Sometimes people are sanctioned, even by government, for using the social media to propagate certain views. The problem there, between these two extremes, is about the fundamental right to digital technology and to platforms, that promote free speech. Now, the challenge that Nigeria has faced is that these social media proposals, regulatory proposals, they've always been phrased as if it's an attempt to redefine the limits of, expression under Section 39 of the Constitution. So the challenge is how to find that balance, because no matter what you do, as has been learned in other parts of the world, that is the future. It's a tool that has emerged. We're in the digital age. We're in the age of electronic reproducibility, and it's not something you can ban. So would the Nigerian government consider other options, think out of the box? I don't have any immediate answers in that regard.
Yeah.
But as for the Minister of Information talking about responsibility, yes, responsibility is very important. Journalists are to express themselves. Citizens are to express themselves. But there is no freedom that is granted under the Constitution that is absolute. Okay? Francis S. Merrill, it was, who wrote the book on media and responsibility. That even when you use the media, responsibility is important. So in terms of the strategy to go about this, the main point is nobody should go as far as violating the fundamental rights of persons to express themselves. That's where, a balance has to be found.
Well said, Dr. Bati. We shall take another story. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo on Monday shared insights on how the federal government can tackle insecurity. Obasanjo, while speaking at a function in Abuja, stressed that the continued violence and insurgency across the country required urgent attention. The former president blamed the insecurity in the country on the access to weapons after the Nigerian civil war and recalled that when he met with the terrorist group Boko Haram back in 2011, they did not have external connections to acquire weapons as they do now. He said poor handling on the part of the Nigerian government made the crisis to get out of hand, according to Obasanjo, until the twin menaces of out-of-school children and youth unemployment are resolved. Every other approach to tackle the country's precarious security situation will remain a cosmetic affair. He then urged older politicians to step aside for young leaders to take over affairs of the nation. I think this is about the best thing I've read so far from Obasanjo recently. I mean, I think, he should be applauded with this comment. Before I take your comment, I don't know if we have time. I just wanted to play a video of him dancing at an event before we talk about Obasanjo in detail. Can we pull up that video? Did you see that flip, Dr. Abati? I was just going to ask, how old is he again?
No, Baba is an octogenarian.
Yeah.
He's in his mid-80s.
Yeah.
And that event where he was dancing
Yes.
was at the book launch, the 80th birthday
We talked about
anniversary
yesterday, yes.
that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
Alaji Tayo Showumi's birthday. And this was before the book launch, I understand. And the lady that Baba is dancing with, that's Doyin Kukoyi, who is our colleague, also a television anchor. And you know, it's interesting to see that a man who is well in his 80s is still so energetic.
Look at that. Did you see that spin?
Yes, you know, he did a period there. You know.
Yeah.
But this is all about keeping fit. There are many young men who won't be able to do that. I doubt if I can deploy that kind of energy.
We're going to check it out this afternoon.
No, what impressed me was not the spin. Dr. Abati, what I want to see you do is when he starts crouching, he has very strong knees. We're going to test your knees, Dr. Abati.
Okay.
I want to see if you have knees like OBJ. That's all I want to know.
But I mean,
the major
regarding his
points that he made,
conversation
right?
earlier.
I mean, you already said, yes, we can't fault those points.
Yes.
His main theme at that Murtala Muhammad event, remembrance event, was that, look, we need to take nation building more seriously.
Yes.
And he tried to identify, you know, those things that we need to do. He thinks that there is insecurity in the country because, one, we've not dealt with the problem of job creation. We have not addressed the issue of 15 million children out of school. And he said those 15 million children who are out of school in Nigeria, they are likely to become the Boko Haram of tomorrow, the Boko Haram of the future. And it's a no-brainer. If you don't educate your young population in a country that is predominantly young in terms of its demographics, then you create problems for the future. And he talked about the economy, that we need to do something about the economy. And he talked about leadership, that we should give young people a chance and encourage younger people to take, you know, to steer the ship of state.
Absolutely.
I don't think too many people will argue with him in that regard.
did
So
very
he spoke as a statesman, as a man who knows what the issues are.
Yeah, Tunu, did you have a quick point to make before
No,
we wrap
just
the
to
show?
agree with everything that he said on all points.
Yes, completely amazing. Well, thank you both. That's all I have for you on What's Trending today. See you tomorrow.